Hello, welcome to Gnomon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get started now, so if we can just, keep it quiet. So, as you know, we have three amazing artists from three different studios here tonight. It's an honor for us to have them here, honestly. So, we have artists from Blizzard, EA Dice, and Naughty Dog. So, before I start talking even more, let's have a huge round of applause for all our speakers. So first up tonight, we have the lovely Joy Lee, who's been working in video games since 2011 and is currently at EA Dice, where she's working on the award-winning Battlefield series. For those of you who haven't seen the Battlefield 1 trailer yet, I think Joy's going to be playing that for us in a moment, so we'll get ready for that. We're going to then change over, so we'll have each speaker go up separately, and then at the end, we'll bring all the speakers together and we'll have a combined Q&A session. So following Joy's presentation, we'll have Helder Pinto take the stage. Helder's a 3D artist at Blizzard Entertainment right now, where he's most recently been working on Overwatch, that small game you might have heard of. While Helder won't be able, unfortunately, to talk about Overwatch tonight, we will be getting an insightful insight into his personal work. And I believe we'll also be able to download his scene file after the event tonight to explore, so you'll get a chance to go in, dig around, explore for yourselves. So huge thanks to Helder for that. And last, but definitely not least, we have Martin Teichmann. I've probably said it wrong. I'm sorry, Martin. He's from Naughty Dog, an environment modeler there. He's going to be talking us through his workflow when creating challenging environments for AAA games. And we'll even be getting to go behind the scenes of one of his Uncharted 4 environments. So I'm super excited for that one. So as I said, we'll have a Q&A session at the end. But if we do have time through each artist segment, we'll take a couple questions at the end of each one. And as always, if you have a question, please wait for the microphone to come to you just to make sure that the speaker can hear your question clearly, as well as the live stream folks too. Actually, for those watching online, if you do have a question at any point, you can ask one using hashtag Gnomon. Please ask your questions on Twitter. We'll be following there. So please speak to us, and we'll try to read out as many as possible. So let's have another round of applause, and then I'll hand over to Joy.
Hi, I'm Joy. I am a 3D artist at DICE LA, and I'd like to thank Gnomon, first of all, for letting me be here and to have me on this panel with these great, talented guys. I'm going to start off telling you guys a bit about me, and then I'm going to be doing a prop demo for you all. So I was a student here forever ago, and this is a couple of works that I did term 5 and term 7, if you students know when that happened. And this school was amazing for me. I went to a bunch of other random game art schools beforehand, or my first major I ever tried to do was art education because my art teachers told me I couldn't make money doing art. But this is me as a student. I think this is my first term. This is my husband that I met that first term. I think this is before we started dating, and I was trying really hard to laugh at whatever that picture was. And since graduating, I've worked on a lot of titles. I've been in the industry for 5.5 years now, and I have more than 5 games on here. I've jumped around studios a lot, just working through startups and stuff. But it's given me a great opportunity to work on cross-generation titles, an Oculus Rift launch title, PC games, mobile games, handheld, Steam games, canceled games. And right now, I am working on Battlefield 1, which I'm super excited about, and I'm going to show you guys the trailer right now. I can find my thing.
Come on then!
don't have to click all the way through back to that. Why is this doing this? Okay. So yeah, Dice LA is working on Battlefield 1 in collaboration with the DICE studio in Stockholm. So that trailer was awesome, and I can't talk about it at all. It's World War I, and that's it. What I can't talk about are props that I've done before, and that's mostly what I do. I'm a prop artist. I tend to make one-off props, what I like to call hero props for levels. Props are basically what populate the environments in a video game. Sorry. What a hero prop is, basically, when you have to populate a space, you have to make a ton of stuff. I mean, if you just look around this room, you'd have to make cameras and chairs and that weird podium and all these computers and a billion monitors. And a hero prop is basically something that's unique, something that there's only one of. Like, there's only one pair of these headphones right now. There's only one, I don't know, one of these weird towers here. And so you're allowed to use a single texture for this single item instead of trying to tile together a bunch of stuff. You're allowed to use the texture the geometry. Sorry. The textures, memory, space, and the geometry budget for these assets, because they're going to be right in your face and going to be used. Like when I worked on Adrift, it is a VR first-person game, and so everything will be floating immediately in front of you. So you had to make sure that the materials were correct, the geometry is correct. There's no faceted, rounded bits, and you could really just spend all your time and love on these props that are important. So I am going to start my demo, because that's what I know how to do. So what I'm actually making for you guys, do I not have it up anymore? I made these headphones. And here they are right here. And here is my real-time game prop of them in Quixel. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to do this. I changed the logo a little bit. And I changed the color because it looked really boring in black. So I'm going to go through my process. So basically, the workflow for making a prop is you make a high res and you make a low res, you UV that, you bake it down, and then you texture it like crazy. So, boom, high res, done. I'm not going to do a modeling per se demo because you guys probably will learn how to model. This is all made of spheres and cubes and cylinders. And that's basically it. But I managed to make it really, really clean and try to get all those details because that's all going to come through in the normal map. What I am going to demo for you are these guys, which are paths that I made through Marvelous Designer, which is a cloth simming software. I would usually make this, try to sculpt it in ZBrush back in the day before I learned Marvelous, but Marvelous has been out lately and is a very, very, very fast cloth simulator, which I will show you. If it'll load. I should have preloaded this. If you guys have any questions or any... Okay, something's starting. So, when you start Marvelous for the first time, you get this wonderful girl. It always opens like this, even though I watch as a blank scene. So she's an avatar, you can delete her, and then this is the red dress. Without her, it just falls. But look how fast that cloth sim was. Anyway, basically, for Marvelous Designer, this fabric right here is your garments, and you have to make this in the software. And what the girl was before is your avatar, which is basically the collision that you're going to be draping your cloth onto. So what I want to do is I want to import my stuff. sorry, pad. I did this in feet. Make sure to get your scale right, because that helps. So that was my little donut that I made. That I basically was like feeling around on this. Is like, what is the underlying little shape kind of doing? And I've learned that it kind of has a little slant in there. It's a little rounded on top. So I made sure to make that accurate first. And then, new. So when you do new, you don't have to re-import the avatar. The avatar stays through your project. So what I wanted was to drape something over it and be able to tuck it both on the outside and on the inside. So I first just make a circle, and this is only on a 2D plane. There's a circle maker tool. It's that, and then this guy, to select this guy and kind of pull it over here and select this guy, and you're able to select the whole thing and scale it down. I want it to be kind of a little bit bigger than this guy. Yeah, that sounds about right. Then you have this in here, and you kind of have to place it over it. Try to get straight on there. And submit. Whoop, pops right on there like a cute little donut. Now I can already tell I need to make it a little bit bigger. Make it bigger. This resets the 3D position you had before, except it didn't do it correctly. And then kind of pop it on. There you go. And my first instinct was to take this edge, and there is a special thing here called elastic, and it shrinks in. And you can increase the strength of this and the ratio. The ratio is basically what the actual length would be 100, and 80 would be the length that it's trying to shrink to. So you can keep on pulling this in until it goes all the way in. I know, it's fast, huh? But I'm not getting that circle in the middle. So how do I do that? Reset this. To make a hole, you use this little tool that looks like a hole in a piece of something, and you kind of drag it out, and you get this triangle. Or not triangle, square thingy, diamond shape, I guess. This isn't round, so I need to add points. Oh, add points. Click, click. And use this one again to move the points into roughly a circle bit. And kind of look at my, oh, that's way too big. What am I doing? If I want to be more accurate than this, I could use the grid and like look at exactly where it needs to be and make sure it's centered. But I have a finished one, guys. This one doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to drape this. Oops. The elastic was still on. Score! So make sure you turn the elastic off, then drape it again, return on the elastic. There's a hole, but the hole has nothing to go out to. So my second instinct was to make this one elastic separately. Oops, a different elastic. Where is, turn it back on and make the ratio super high. Nope, not working. So the solution is if you look at these, it's good to have the reference right in front of you because then you can always refer back to it. There's actually a piece of fabric on the inside that it's sewing. That's another donut. So I'll just take this guy and I will, where is the duplicate? I guess I'll just copy and paste it. There. Now there's another one. And what you got to do is sew these two together. And there is a sewing tool for that. So they should give you a live update on this. So you kind of have to guess at first, but I've done this before. So you basically click on the edges and make sure that when you're seeing the little blue tab, the line here, that it lines up with the one on the other side, because that'll get you sewn correctly. If you keep on getting errors like this, where it keeps on twisting, that's wrong. Cool, that looks great. Now make sure to turn off elastic on both of these. And then let's see what we have so far. Oh, that's kind of what I'm going for. Kind of. Now let's try to be clever with this. Whoa, this program did not like me just doing that. Didn't like me choosing the wrong way to turn this either. So, what if we made this thing really small and made the inside hole really big, so when it's shrunk in, it just attached onto itself? It took me actually a lot of trial and error to actually find that solution, but that is the obvious solution to this. This guy's small. Select the inner circle again, and then scale this guy up. Oh, not too far up. Do a little bit at a time. And kind of finagle it like that. Then take this, did not make it straight. Kind of stick it under, make sure these lines are looking good. And sew the inside, which I almost forgot. This to this. This to this. So you can use Marvelous Designer. It's mostly used by character artists, actually. At least you can tell it's obvious. You can load in your own avatar and then basically make clothes for it from patterns, which is awesome. But lately it's been used by environment artists also to make things like pillows or draped cloth or basically those things, couches maybe. Bloop. There you go. That's pretty much what I wanted. And then we can basically select both of these guys. Particle distance, so if you're ever like searching for what your resolution or how to make this look like it has more geo, it's called particle distance in here, which doesn't make any sense. Well, it does, because think of particles as vertices, and basically the closer they are, the denser your mesh is. So if I make this smaller and resim, it kind of makes it nice and smooth. I don't like this wrinkle. You can actually pinch and like pull it out a little bit. This is magic, isn't it? And that's basically it. And that's how I made them. Let me make this a little bit nicer. Resim. That didn't do that much. But anyway, that is my Marvelous demo. And that is how I ended up modeling the ones that I used for this project. No, I don't want to say that. My Marvelous final, which is actually a lot, which is actually a lot tighter. Let's see? And my circles are nicer. And it looks kind of squishy. So, imported that, stuck them on here, model this the usual hard surface modeling ways. And what happens next? You have to make the low res. So since I'm using this as a hero prop, and it's basically all circles, I had to use a lot of geometry for the outside, the little bars, the pads and everything. This one. Don't save that. I don't want that. And pro tip, you only need to model one side. And UV one side. Especially if you know that this pad looks pretty much exactly like the other one. And this whole thing, let me see if I can bring my poly count up. This thing is 32. The whole thing will be under 7, which is pretty okay for a hero prop that's like next gen. I say next gen, but it's now current gen. But pretty dense. I could probably get rid of that bevel. And I shouldn't have had 2 different files for this, but model this, UV it. This doesn't currently have UVs. My next file for it does. There we go. Oh, the UV editor came up. I could show you guys kind of how to do it. Again, it's all circles, so it's not the best layout in the world. But again, you would model everything once, and then UV it, and then after you duplicate it, you would move it to its own part of the shell. See, so there's no overlapping here. If this wasn't a prop that had to be high fidelity, or if I didn't care whether these 2 sides were unique, I would just make the same side over and duplicate it over. But I just wanted different scratches on both sides. I wanted one to say L and the others to say R, so I wanted them to be kind of nice. And what I did with this guy, let's see if I can, these guys on top, is that since they're just a plain rubber, as you can see right here, I just kind of straightened them out and stuck them on the bottom. And when I make wires in the future for what comes out of this guy, then I could just use that same texture. And it doesn't even need the normal map, so I can just delete that part. I did the same thing with these guys, the little ones. These are probably a little bit too high, but I like them. I just stuck up here, this entire corner, I'll end up like deleting and just using that as a plain silver texture that I can reuse if I need like something else silver. So basically, once this is all UV'd and happy, and you have your high res that's here, and then you have your low res, and I forgot to duplicate this over because I wanted 2 different plugs, but pretend that's aligned with this one perfectly. I take this whole mesh, and make sure this is all the parts that I wanted to be smooth are smooth, and this part that's super high geometry that'll break my computer was not smooth. And I go convert smooth mesh preview to polygons, and so make it all happy. Don't crash. I shouldn't have maybe done it all at once. So basically, it'll take whatever smooth mesh preview you have and just apply poly to that. So whatever baking program you export it to, it just works. Instead of like you forget to do this and you just export over your regular high poly that's not smooth, and you get facets everywhere. I shouldn't have done it like this. Where is Maya? Where are you? There you are. Not for resale. I thought it would say not responding, so that was like, what? Yes, I know. So anyway, I can do my next part now, where I could show you my maps. Oh, this is the guy at the end. Spoiler. Open. I always forget where I put everything. It's on my passport. Me. Gnomon. Bakes. Can open all of these, probably. So, I use Nulled for my baking, which is relatively new right now. Use this guy. And you see, it I don't know, it bakes maybe 10 times faster than X-Normal. It's kind of clicking. It has a live 3D viewer. I would do a demo on that too, but it's literally like 2 buttons. I just love it. And this is kind of what it spits out. A lot of people will say that, like, especially for something that you model that has a lot of intersecting parts, that maybe you should separate the parts so you don't get the normal overlap like this is showing, or like this is showing. But I kind of know what I'm going for, and I know that this takes 2 seconds to fix in a normal map by just like going over it with blue. And for me to separate out the mesh is like a little bit more time. So you kind of have to like weigh and balance of like, what do I know how to fix? And how can I just work the fastest I can without having to worry about being perfect about everything? But that being said, I have this file that says bake normal fix. I did do all those things. And so I cleaned up those bits. I got rid of some jaggedy edges that were over here. And I basically filled in this, even though there was no geometry there. You can see in my UV snap. Occlusion, same thing. I should have saved the original fix of this also, but it also had the same stretching in the inside and little bits that I had to fix. But again, you just put white or black in those areas, and I know that when I bake this, the only things that I have to change are white or black, and it's not going to have to repaint some gradient of something or anything, so I knew that that was a pretty easy decision. And from that also, I made this color ID mask, which I'll be using in Quixel. So basically, a color ID mask is like where your materials are. I can demonstrate for you. Now that Maya is closed, I can reopen it. Maya. I'm just going to bring in the one model. I should have made a shortcut to all this. I'm thinking about it. Final model. This guy. This is not the correct material, but whatever. Let me just take this. And I'm going to throw my color ID mask on there so you can kind of see how I separated this all out. This guy. 6. That's how you do that. So you can tell this light blue is like rubber bits. The orange is for black plastic. I wanted a little textury outside for, even though this is also like black plastic, I wanted to have a different sort of like normal on it that I knew I could get through Quixel, so I made that different. I made all the gold trim yellow, and this inner bit yellow also. And I have a leather and a cloth, which is switched in this version, is fixed in the PNG. There you go. That's correct. And so you do this. I did it just by kind of just taking my normal map and then overlaying my UV snap as kind of having the Maya window open and be like, oh yeah, this was there, this was there. You can bake it. You can just take these faces and like, I'm going to assign orange to this. And then you can bake it through Maya using the transfer maps tool right there. But I tend that it's just a lot cleaner and less time consuming if I just did it in Photoshop. And I don't use Quixel likes to use very specific colors for specific materials, so it automatically assigns you everything. I don't do that. So now that we have all of our maps, I will show you guys Quixel. You can close some things too. Except for Quixel, where'd it go? I closed Photoshop and I closed Quixel. I didn't get this version. Okay. No. So, I'm going to basically start this project for you. See, I always blank out on this step. I will take my final model, and I'll show you when the final model pops up on 3D, how my final model is different than my model that I was just showing you. Normal map, normal fix, ambient inclusion. I work always with the Unreal Engine 4 workflow because through work, we work in Frostbite Engine and we use the same metalness workflow. And you have to do a little bit of tweaking between the textures. I mean, everything reads different. We use smoothness and not roughness, so you just like invert that. And you have to remember to re-invert the green channel on the normal map. But besides that, I find it pretty straightforward for getting things from Quixel into Frostbite. So it's going to make a couple maps for us. Come on, big crazy computer. And if I'm going kind of fast, there's room for questions. Some, maybe now. Oh, I think it's going to keep going. There'll be room for questions at the end also. Let's get started. So, I'm going to pop this open. I had a notebook. That's okay. Ooh.
Is it recommended for 3D artists to buy this extra software?
I think whatever more you can learn, you should learn it. And there's a ton of student licenses for everything right now. And back when I was a student, I might have downloaded a couple things just to learn it, just to be prepared. So the more software you know, the better. I mean, software can be a crutch also. You should learn how to do everything and everything. But whatever makes you faster, whatever gives you the best results, you should use. So this is my model that popped up. This is my final model, which is basically the low-res model that I showed you before, except I posed it a little bit. I kind of gave it a little asymmetricalness, which always helps. I kind of made it seem like it was on the ground. I made a wire for it, and I kind of just put everything in place in my little pose. So I can go through kind of how you start. So how much time do I have?
Another 5-10 minutes.
Oh, I'm gonna jump to the end. So, that's how you load all your maps in the Quixel, and then you do a lot of work in it, and then what you do is you open up this project. Oh, this is the wrong project. Load project, Gnomon, DDO file, this project, DDO, DDO. This would work. Come on. There's a lot of stuff to open. This is actually not opening it. Let me try that again. Let's take this, exit. No. Oh, there it is. Load both of them without closing the other one. Pro tip, if you want to close all of this PSDs at once, you just go up here and exit. If you just close out of the program, like I'm done working for today, then you have to go into each one of these and close them individually, and it's annoying. Really, I just had you open. Really? That didn't work. Let's try one more time. Refreshing.
Hey, Joy, we actually have a couple of questions coming in on Twitter if you want me to fire those out. So Chaz has asked, when prop modeling, how long do you typically spend on a prop from start to finish, and how many would you do on a single title?
On a single title, it would be like 30 to 50. I don't know. It depends on what the title is. If I had a rough estimate, probably more than that. Even so, like I don't do props. Sometimes I don't do props individually, but it's like a team working. Like, oh, I did this part of it. Could you clean this up? Or like, I worked on this building. Could you retexture this part of it? Like that sort of thing. So it's really hard to estimate that. As for time per prop, they go anywhere from like 2 or 3 a day to like 3 days on one. It really depends on how complex the prop is. Some of them can go weeks if they're like, I don't know. For Battlefield 4, I was working on this giant ship-to-shore crane for like a month and a half or 2 months. It was crazy. This finally loaded, by the way. Look how great. See, I got my little LNR even though my texture resolution doesn't really show it. So, basically what I did, I'll just show you all my materials, is that you basically go into This guy has a bunch of materials. You kind of look around like, I need a metal something. And you kind of look at your reference. Hopefully, like if you don't have it nearby, you have a ton of pictures of it from a ton of different angles. So you can kind of guesstimate what sort of texture this actually is, because accuracy is always the best. And you pick the one that matches, and then you go here and pick the color that you assigned it to. And once you have all of these, you'll get, these don't exist yet, but when you apply a texture or a smart material onto an object, you get a texture of layers on it. You get the top. For this one, this is the plastic that's on the side, this gray one. You get plastic and you get the damage on top. And usually things come in at the wrong scale, but this is the finished one, so it's corrected. So what I like to do first is to look at it only with the bottom layer available. And you make sure that the scale here is not like crazy weird, because sometimes it comes in crazy weird. See how like I just changed, even though it's plastic and it's super subtle, it really changes how the reflectance of this works. So you have to make sure to like tweak it back and forth, kind of lean back, lean in, and make sure that. And I do that per layer. And then when I work my way up, this one has a pre-made mask on it, which you can see right here. This is a Dynamask. I do not want to paint it yet. Painting is for like the very, very end. But when I'm going over all these layers, I like to make sure that every single one of these, make sure to show advanced. Move this up, move this down. Make sure see this has two different layers layered on top, and then it's also being driven by inclusion, curvature, blah, blah. But make sure that when this texture, if you ever like load in a texture and see like, why is this covered in so many tiny scratches? Or why does this have like one big scratch in the middle when I thought this would only be perfect? It'll never be perfect. You'll always have to readjust it. So this one, I made the scale crazy huge. You get this one big scratch on it, and when you show it in, no, I won't be able to show it in that. If I were to accept this mask and show just the damage of it, it would be like, oh, this is weird. This doesn't have any sort of variance, and it's really not shiny there. Why isn't it shiny there? I guess you can't see because it's in the shadow. But it's like this big, weird, not shiny mark. But if you don't like double check all of your stuff, a lot of that stuff can happen. So I go layer by layer, bring this back down. And I think this plastic in particular defaults to, oh, there's my nice scratches. Defaults to being really, really bright, so that it seems like it has a lot of worn damage all over it, which I do not like. Yeah, it comes in pretty much like this. So tightness is a good one to like bring it in, but it depends on whether your it's inverted or not. This one isn't, so tightness will make it more tight. And you just do that 20 times over for all your materials, and then you'll get something that's a good start. No, but honestly though, like a lot of people, like when you're working really fast and trying to get props out, you can't just take things out of Quixel and then you have a prop that's made. But what you really want to do is do the extra little bit of work, do the extra little painting on it. It's good that there's painting in Quixel now, so you can add your own custom scratches. Do not use only procedural scratches, and kind of get it all looking really good. Also, why I like Quixel. I probably am out of time. I'm probably out of time. But just another reason why I like Quixel is because it's attached to Photoshop, and that like this entire text here, when you add something to a material, like if you want to add text or it, make sure just to put it in the right layer. Like this was on top of the leather. So I made sure that I'm like, okay, it's leather. I can put my text on top of that, and then the edgeware and discoloration is going to sit on top of that, so it's still going to get those two properties on top of whatever I'm adding. So I added this text. I did it through Photoshop because I usually have two monitors. I just went through here and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find this layer, gonna put this right here. I rasterize it, so that's why it doesn't look like text. But stick it on there, make sure to like rasterize it, duplicate it over, also put in your roughness here. And especially in the roughness, you can see that the discoloration is going over it also. And that's why when you're looking at it here, it has a nice little bit of subtle speck richness. Speck richness is the thing, right? And yeah, that's all the tips and tricks I can think of right now. There's a billion more, but especially if you're going into like leathers, you need to be really careful with the scale, because I wanted like a really fine looking leather, but if you do like this, like it came in as, it's really chunky, but kind of fun. Why did I bother making that gold cloth sim if I can't see it now? So that's good.
Thank you so much, Joy. I think we need to have a huge round of applause. It's so brave coming up and doing a live demo. I'm always in awe of people who can do live demos. It's crazy. We do have a quick question on Twitter as well. From Anissa. She says she was in a game art prop class recently that demanded her to only use tries for low res. What is your take on tries versus quads?
I work in quads personally. Usually when you import into the game engine, it converts it over to tries anyway. The only time where I've worked only in tries is through mobile games. In anything next gen, I would be working in quads the entire time, especially when you need to make a lot of LODs, like level of detail passes on it. It's really, really easy to reduce a quadded object and not very easy to reduce something made of triangles.
Cool. And thank you, Joy. And then do we have any, we take one question from the audience if anyone has one. Okay, I'm just going to run up
down there.
Here. Can you raise your hand? Oh, okay.
Right, so you use Unreal Engine, right?
I did for my last project. Right now I use Frostbite.
Right, so do you feel exactly the same identical feeling when you work on your material?
What? I didn't.
When you work on your the material work, when you export into your engine, is it kind of similar feeling?
It is really similar, but there definitely is tweaking that I need to do on a pro material basis. The reason why I always use Unreal and Quixel is because it's super similar, and I just need to like invert a couple channels, and I basically get into engine, and it's maybe 90% there. But I still have to go in and maybe add a little bit more contrast to the smoothness, or like maybe bump up the wide channel in the normal map a little bit, because sometimes when our textures compress and we combine textures in different channels, we lose a blue channel of our normal map. So we have to bump up the rest of it a little bit in order to make it look nice.
It's going to be pretty minor, like tweaking for the final quality?
Huh?
It's going to be really minor, like tuning?
Yeah, it's minor tuning. So if I was like assigned like 20 props to do, I wouldn't do that tuning for every prop until we were in polishing at the very end, and then only if they needed it.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joy. Everyone else, we'll take a few more questions later on when we have like the combined panel. But for now, another round of applause while Helder will get set up. Thank you.
All right. Is the mic on? Oh, wow, it is. How you guys doing? Awesome. All right, I'm actually really glad that Joy talked about how to do hero assets, and when you focus on something that looks really, really unique on the screen, because I'm actually going to focus on the other spectrum of environment art, which is making like very simple pieces, and then with those pieces, you're going to be bringing an environment together. So yeah, it's a really great honor to be here at Gnomon. By the way, I've been watching Gnomon DVDs since like my teenage years, so I'm really, really glad that I got invited to be here, so thank you. All right, so very quick introduction. My name is Helder Pinto. I've been doing game environments since the early 2000s, give or take. I was making maps and mods for games like Half-Life, for Max Payne, for Quake, et cetera, and this is some of the old work that I did back then. And throughout the years, I never really stopped making game environments as a hobby. It sort of like became my obsession, my passion. There's something about creating virtual worlds, walk around them, be immersed by them that I find absolutely fascinating. So this is some of the most recent maps that I did back in the day that caught Crytek's eyes, where I worked for a few years on Crysis 2 and Crysis 3, before ultimately ending up at Blizzard, working on Overwatch, which, by the way, really quick plug, if you don't mind, this week we just launched the game. It was one of the best experiences of my life, like having worked on Titan and shipping Overwatch and seeing like thousands and thousands of people enjoying it. It's a really, really great feeling. So for those who don't know, Overwatch is a team-based multiplayer shooter. It's Blizzard's original franchise in a really, really long time. And hopefully some of you guys had the chance to check it out. But enough about me. Tonight I'd actually like to talk a little bit about building modular environments for video games with emphasis on the video games part. I'll be talking a little bit about the production side of the process, because there's a science to it that is rarely discussed, surprisingly. Although there's no be-all, end-all workflow to building an environment, every different game has different needs, and what works with a style might not work with another. So I'll be showing you how this specific level came to life, and hopefully show you what it means to create a video game environment versus just creating a 3D scene or a prop. Obviously, any kind of 3D work that you do will obviously help you become a better artist, but building a game environment that you can actually, walk around as a player is one of the best ways to hone your skills, and one of the best ways to land a job as well, because you'll be covering the whole process yourself. You'll get a better grasp and understanding of what it takes to bring a whole environment to life, which will equip you with vital knowledge when you work at a studio one day. For instance, when you get handed on a blockout to work on, you understand it a lot better if you went through the whole process of building an environment like this yourself. So you actually do not need too many individual pieces to create an environment. Less is indeed more in a case like this, because with smart reusability of almost all the assets that you make, stuff comes to life really, really quickly. Not everything needs to be a hero piece. Quite the contrary. It's actually possible to build environments with little to no hero pieces at all by using a bunch of modular pieces. So I like to compare the process of building game environments to the creation of a series of boundaries that you impose on yourself. It can be daunting when you start an environment with so many options, knowing you have dozens or maybe even hundreds of assets that you need to make. You don't even know where to start. So for me, one of the best analogies that I found to reduce this kind of daunting feeling is to actually start working, as what I call it, inside the box. So you should always think outside the box, of course. I mean, working inside the box. So boundaries or limitations can actually be our biggest ally as artists, because it creates a sort of like a level playing field that is a lot more manageable for us to work on. Because again, like you create your own sandbox for yourself, making you aware of your limitations, making the whole process of creating an environment in a feasible amount of time actually be pretty attainable. So to give you a quick example of a limitation that was the driving force behind the creation itself, the movie Toy Story. Pixar's first film. The reason they decided to create a movie about toys was because the easiest things to render was plasticky surfaces, like toys. This applies to all scales too, from full-blown projects down to how you manage your own 3D assets in a level. The irony of it all, though, and my main point here, is that by having these kinds of restrictions, it actually enables creativity. So, to drive home the analogy of working inside the box, I'll be quickly skimming through the process behind the creation of this scene that I made with my very good friend and colleague, Philip Klevestav. And we call this environment Arbor Vitae, which is Latin for tree of life. This small project was built around the idea of building an environment with efficiency and speed. So we did it a while ago. This isn't even the latest version of Unreal Engine anymore, but the workflows used here are still very, very relevant. So I have a small video that I want to show you, just like a quick fly through, so you can see the environment. There's epic music too. So, how do you create something like this? So, we started out by creating a very, very simple story. To be able to create something, you need to be able to visualize it in your head, right? So that's why story should always come first. Even the most simple of stories make us explore the depths of our creative minds. So to tell you a bit about the story of this scene, so it's basically like humans are terraforming a planetoid using multiple atmosphere processing stations throughout the surface of this planet. These stations suck the water from the core of the planet, then the reactor turns it into oxygen, allowing for life to bloom. So just that simple setup gave us a lot of ideas already. It's going to be this very sci-fi looking environment whose main purpose is, of course, the creation of life, hence the name Arbor Vitae. So we want vibrant and lively colors, hints of water everywhere, and we want to be able to see a lot of vegetation and other locations extending to the horizon as well. So theme-wise, from the get-go, we already have our sandbox to play with. So with that, we do a very quick concept, which is what you guys are seeing here, to quickly represent what we want from the scene. Pretty straightforward here. Also, small tangent, but little advice here. Stories should also be infused in everything that you do, from big set pieces all the way down to the scratches on a texture. They can tell a story too. And when they do, the player feels it when they play your level. So say you're working on a crate, classic prop, right? We all worked on on a crate before. Whatever detail that you put on that crate, it can tell a story as well. You know, a blood mark, maybe someone got shot next to it. There's moss crawling through the gaps. Maybe it's been sitting there for decades. There's a crowbar stuck to it. Maybe someone tried to open it before. So moving forward, by creating a simple modular kit, we can immediately start to flesh out the environment. And I want to talk a little bit about the grid. The grid is both an environment artist and level designer's best friend. All of these pieces snap to each other since they respect the same metric height and width. So if I later need to make like more variations, all I will need to do is to replace the original object, and everything would still snap correctly, hence the beauty of the grid. You know, it's very easy to work on these kits further by just refining their granularity and adding more pieces later. So moving on, with those pieces, we block out the environment, making a few more of them as we go, of course. So it's obvious, like this first attempt that we did was never gonna work. You know, it's just a boring corridor-shaped room. We want to get more organic lines on there, and that's what a modular kit is for. You know, you can just sketch out different ideas in 3D. This is literally playing with Legos here. We have a cool job. If you were working in a studio, by the way, you could already hand out a kit at this stage to a level designer, since the proportions and the functionality of the kit will not change anymore. Again, we go back to working inside the box analogy. By doing this, you created a rather restrict kit, but it actually becomes a tool that you can work with or others can work with as well. So this was our second attempt of trying to flesh out the scene. A little bit more successful here. It still has very modular and blocky feel to it. So it's a good idea to start identifying a few things here. What extra modular pieces are you going to need? And immediately make them. You know, your humble stairs, your pillars, your floors, your ceilings, etc., etc. So the great thing about this workflow is that it allows for maximum time for iteration and minimizes roadblocks. Because your rough assets, although far from being finished, they're already being used for real in the map, and they're never gonna move again. So next thing we should ask yourself at this stage is, are hero assets going to be needed? For those who don't know, even though Joy already explained a little bit what a hero asset is, you know, they're unique assets that are usually the focus of all attention in the scene. You know, we should block them out and get them in quickly. Hero assets should be kept to a minimum, by the way, because they can drag the production time massively. On top of that, your humble pillars, walls, or floor pieces that get repeated dozens of times, because they're so common and flexible, they need to be rock solid. So for hero assets on this scene, we figured both the middle floor and the middle ceiling pieces will never work due to the obvious modular look. So, So these pieces are really good contenders to spend some time making them look unique. You know, it will be the only pieces in the scene that will never be repeated more than once again. So it's a good opportunity to add like little details that your modular pieces want. You know, your cables, your tech doodads, your little sci-fi shapes. Like you just go to town with assets like this. So next step. Moving forward here, materials and textures, of course. Like these, as you can see, usually can come in pretty late too. So the exact same mentality applies here. You want to minimize as much as possible the amount of repetition in your work by trying to get big amount of reusability out of your tileable textures. At this stage, I'm just interested in the big shapes and how well they read when they repeat next to each other. So I like to time box this stage and try like a few different designs that I'm already happy with. In this case, I actually didn't follow my own advice and made a few too many designs. But this is pretty much all the textures that are going to be used in the level, though. Again, you don't need much. And notice I didn't bother with finalizing them. I just put them in the level with a normal map and a quick AO, and that's already enough for a quick representation of what they're going to look like. One of the biggest advices that I can give you when building environments is don't get caught up trying to finish an asset. It's okay, even advisable, to leave things sort of like halfway through and go work on something else. Remember, you're working on the whole environment as a whole. It's very common to get like tunnel vision and work on a simple thing for far too long, and you should always avoid that. So, since there was a lot of texture designs, we decided to make a few more granular pieces. These are literally just quick cube models with tellable textures slapped onto them. Like, all the textures respect the same grid rules as the modular pieces, so you can UV map them in seconds. So all the texture sheets are laid out in powers of 2, just like our modular pieces. And as long as you keep that language, everything will marry together. So it can be easily mapped to the modular assets. So, or any assets actually. Tellable textures can be used to map anything. So what you're looking at here is the pixels that the stream sheets occupy in the texture. Like, notice they're all powers of 2. I should probably have organized them better. I didn't know I was going to show them in a presentation, but you should probably start with the smaller ones and medium ones and bigger ones there. But like I said, you can use these kind of like tellable textures to map anything. So take this vent prop, for example. We could easily have spent some time making a uniquely mapped object with its own textures, with its own AO, etc., etc. But you only have so much time, and if you have a small team, you probably wanna speed these things up and save the time that you have to everything else and your hero assets as well. So we can just map it to the textures we already have loaded in memory, and the asset looks just as good and none of the cost. So moving forward, with all the textures done, we grab the new granular pieces and start to build out the rest of the environment. Remembering, this is really important, to work on the level as a whole and never focus on something for too long. Like, this is your canvas. You can get some really, really great mileage out of these kits, especially for more generic looking areas of the level, like this one that you're seeing here. It's not the focus, so you can get away with a lot. So in here, I just shaded the repeated pieces with the same color. If you mix and match them, even at this stage, before lighting and props and everything else, the repetition is actually not that bad. And it actually looks pretty good. So, good thing about making the middle pieces hero assets is that you can go crazy with adding unique details, like I said. It will actually be a refreshing contrast against all the repeating elements of the level. Like, this is where you really wanna put your love on. So, it's perfect timing to take a step back and think about colors and lighting. Maybe a few props too, because like usually when I get to this phase of building out the map, I don't really know what to do, because you could keep on working on blockouts and textures forever. So it's actually really good to take one step back and rethink what you're doing here and start to think about this fun stuff too. And paintovers are always a quick solution to throw in some quick ideas. What kind of colors you want, what kind of props, what kind of lights you want, etc., etc. You just go to town in Photoshop. So personally, I love using this tool called Adobe Color or Cooler, however you say that. For a game environment, it's usually wise to pick a color palette and stick to it. Because the last thing you want to have is to have like a mess of colors making your scene look really, really busy. Remember that characters will later be running around. So maybe there will be some combat, some dialogue, a boss area. Whatever it is, it's the level's responsibility to make them shine, not overpower them. That's actually our job. As we usually say at Blizzard, gameplay always comes first. And really quick, a representation of what these colors mean. Basically, the purple would be that we wanted our ambient lighting, our ambient colors to be this, not blue, but this purpley kind of stylized color. Our first accent color would be these very strong and vibrant oranges. Like, the orange is a great color. Like, orange is my favorite color. It fits with anything. And the green would be like your secondary accent color, where we would use on the vegetation and backdrop. So, at this stage, usually things start to progress pretty organically. As we approach the polish phase and the true fun begins, we start making the backdrop, which is always important to sell a theme, no matter what your theme is. Usually these are very, very cheap assets. Like, they're just sitting at a distance. You don't need much. Plus, they're usually obstructed by the foreground, as you can see here. You just need enough to tell the player where he is. So next step, we make a few props to help with detail and, very important, scale. Scale is a huge one, by the way. Stuff like keypads, computer screens, railings, light fixtures. These kind of assets really, really help to sell scale in your levels. They're even more important if there's no characters in the scene, of course, because these are relatable objects to the human eye. We all know how tall a railing is, so our eyes immediately start thinking and analyzing all the visual elements in the scene, and it clicks. Like, you know what the scale of the environment is. And remember, you can always take a step back and do another paint over if you're running out of ideas of what props that you need for the scene. So now, moving forward, finalizing all materials. I should mention that we're only using one single material, or if you want to call it shader, throughout the level. We always go back to what I was saying, to working inside the box mentality. I wanted to create a box where all my materials would go into. In Unreal Engine, these kind of materials are called master materials. All materials are instances of the same master material. So it's really easy to just add elements like these water drips in here, for instance. And you only need to add it once. Like, again, this is all about saving time and really spend your time what is worth it. So you add it once, and it automatically gets propagated throughout all the instance materials in the level. And with the painting tool, you can just mask out or in the areas that you want to blend in more of your accent materials in. Also, only in this stage, actually, I decided to actually finalize the textures. And for this stage, I actually used Dedo as well. So I didn't tell you, but those normal maps, we just made them in Endo. Endo is amazing. Like, I don't even model my textures anymore. You just do like a quick selection, bevel, and bam, like you get your normal maps pretty instantly. So after all the normal maps are done, if you have just like a series of them, if you have a normal map and a color map for each material, you just slot that into Dedo, and you tell Dedo which one of those colors on the color map represents, and it basically does all the textures for you. So to finalize, it's always important to add some extra details for flavor, like decals, holograms, really cool blinky lights, moving water, vegetation moving with the wind, particles such as like a steam and sun rays. It's that cherry on top of the cake. And last but not least, of course, finalize the lighting to really make your level pop. Lighting is the most important element of the scene, to never, ever overlook it. And actually, I think I can just Alt-Tab. That will be too easy. There you go. So what was I saying? Oh, lighting. So we wanted for this scene to, because like I remember when I was making this, like I really like the look of these materials when they're in the shade, and when they're just like being lit by these very like sci-fi blue lights. But at the same time, you gotta stay true to the story, and the story was about vibrant colors and life. So I was like, why can't we have both like that GIF, right? So let's just have both, let's just have like a little bit of sun. You can always add more windows. Sun is always amazing. It always looks really, really good to have a little bit of bounce. And orange bounces really well around the scene as well. So this is the warm part of the scene. And as you start to get in, it slowly starts getting darker and darker and darker, and maybe it starts getting a little bit more like more oppressive and darker as you go into the guts of the machine. So, hang on. I'm trying to look for. There you go. Bam. Thank you very, very much. But, sorry. Thank you, guys. Really, really quick. The biggest takeaways that I like to reinforce really quick would be to remember this. When you're making scenes like this, your whole scene is your canvas. This is really important. Work on it as a whole. Create your sandboxes. Don't overwhelm yourself. Work inside the box. And build only what you need. Less is more. And as a quick reminder, if you want to dissect these further, me and Philip made the level and all the source assets available for free. So just go to my website. There's a link in there. You cannot miss it. Thank you. How are we with time, by the way?
Yeah, that was awesome, Hilda. The detail in that scene is incredible.
Thank
I don't
you.
know if anyone saw recently, but Hilda was one of the artists in our recent gallery show. We had some environment work in there. So we had the images of that scene, but getting to explore it and walk around and see the details, insane. We've got lots of people on Twitter saying thank you, learning lots, very interesting.
Sweet, awesome.
Does anyone have any audience questions? We've got about 5-10 minutes to take some questions.
I have some extra slides as well with the other scene if you guys want to take a look at it.
Okay,
Up to
sure.
you.
Hi there.
How's it going?
So I am looking into landing a 3D environment or prop artist with Blizzard. And you mentioned a lot of different aspects that kind of stray away from strictly modeling and texturing.
Mm-hmm.
For Blizzard modelers, do they have to worry about stuff like particle effects and lighting and such?
Whatever helps your game. I think like in a really healthy environment, whatever you're passionate for and you want to contribute to, I'm pretty sure no one's gonna say no, right? Does that answer your question?
So, like, if I was to have a portfolio that mainly showed, my models and my texturing, I might use some like basic lighting. Would that be like sufficient enough, or do you feel like I would have to kind of go beyond? Yeah.
So, like I said in the beginning, it's not exclusive to this, but environment art sort of has like two ends: is the prop artist and the environment artist that usually deals with more like the little things, the stuff that repeats a lot. And one of the things that I really recommend is that if you focus on one of those two, like that really helps. But presentation is everything as well. Just no one really likes just look at a portfolio and all you have is like a clay render from ZBrush. Show and prove that the whole spectrum, everything. You know how to bake. You know how to put it in CryEngine or Unreal Engine, and create like a little scene as well. Like even if it's just like a wall be behind you with like a dirt floor, give it some love. Show that you really care about that asset that you made. Like that really matters, I think.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, another question.
Hi.
Hey.
Thank you so much for showing your modular approach to modeling. You can see that in the new Doom game that came out. My question is, does it ever get to the point where a modular approach starts to wear on the player because they'll see the same props over the same pieces?
Yeah.
And when that starts to happen, what do you do as an artist?
There is a bunch of tricks that actually starts on the level design phase. When you, and that's why like I really love this kind of layered approach. Like you start with the big stuff first. Like as you get experience, you do start to see more or less where things are getting repetitive. So maybe like you have like a long corridor and like you can tell it's the same wall being repeated. Like you don't like, of course you can just hide it with particles, you can hide it with props, you can hide it with lighting, you can hide it with really cool stuff, but it can start in the level design side as well. If it's just a corridor, just add like a corner. Just hide the fact that you're reusing those pieces a lot. I hope that answers your question. Sora? Let's see, what else can you do? That's pretty much it. The game development is all about hacking and hiding mistakes. It's a really huge part of it. So if you can tell that it's repetitive, pretty much the best answer to that is try and hide it. Or if even hiding it won't fix it, just make a few more pieces. Just bite the bullet and do it. If you have to do it, you have to do it.
Cool, I think we can take a couple more. Yeah.
So for those tileable normals, did you just, you applied it to other geo where you didn't even bake any high-res geometry onto that geo, you just floated the UV, did you float the UV shells over that?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I didn't make any high poly for this at all. Again, we wanted to be all about speed. So yeah, 128 strip on Photoshop. If you set up your grid correctly in Max or Maya or whatever you use to be exactly that, you can just model the little bit of a strip, like a cube, extrude it and slap it your texture into it, and it already looks good. If your normal map looks good, of course.
So you did that all in Maya, like in the UV texture editor?
I actually work with both. It's kind of weird. I do all of these very simple shapes. I actually love Maya because Maya has some really awesome snapping tools, but Max has that modifier stack, man. It's awesome. That turbo smooth, that Spherify, the shell modifier. Usually the hero assets. If I have to model a vehicle, a rocket ship, something more elaborate. I really love Max for that.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
And we'll take one more before we move to Martin.
Cool.
Okay. Just want to make me run.
Cool, thank you. So I was wondering, if you were doing a more let's say a natural environment, with a lot of stone pieces that have weathering, say you had a pillar, but you wanted to add some real character and age, but not necessarily model that in, would you then make that a one-to-one unique unwrap, or would you still try and apply tiling textures to that?
Say if you want to make a pillar more weathered, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, would you say it's worth the time to do a one-to-one, or would you say no, you can get the same amount of detail and kind of character through the tiling textures?
Yeah, it really depends on when you want to spend your time on. But I kind of get tired of just sculpting pillars and stuff like that. So it's actually easier and sometimes even better to create two blending materials. One is the rock and one is cracks, and you can even create a third, which is like dirt, and then throw that all together in a master material and like blend that all in the pillar. So the good thing about this workflow is that if you copy that pillar next to it, you can paint the one next to it differently. So this is actually the awesome thing about this workflow, is that you can make these two look distinct, even though they're the same assets. Whereas if you were to spend the time ZBrushing and making it very unique, and if you copy it, it's obviously the same piece.
I see. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, we do have one more.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's just a quick question. I just want to see what game engine we're using to showcase that.
Oh, this is UDK. So it's actually the old version of an Unreal Engine. Like Unreal Engine is on the 4th iteration by now, as you guys know, and it's much better to do like shinier kind of like surfaces like this. So again, we made these a while ago. Hopefully, it still holds up. But I still wanted to show you, like, because I think it's a really good example on how to build an environment from start to finish. But yeah, it's UDK, the old version of Unreal Engine. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. A round of applause. So we'll just give Martin a couple of seconds to find his files. Thank you. You're being a great audience. Lots of cool questions.
Should I save them? No. That's not one either. So, do you have a mouse? Yeah, perfect. So, I'm on the mics already? Yeah, great. Yeah, unfortunately today I just got an annoying cough, so I might end up sound like Batman at the end, but I hope it's okay. So, first of all, thanks a lot for inviting me to Gnomon. It's a great honor, and it's a great pleasure to be here. So, and thanks to Helder and Joy for the other two awesome talks. And I actually wanted to go and talk a little bit more about challenges in environment creation I encountered while I was working out on Uncharted 4. So actually quite nice. We have like the asset production. We go into how a level is made, and then I'm talking more about those challenges. So it's almost like as we planned that. Yeah. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about my career, so where I started and how I got here. And then I want to give you a real quick workflow summary of how we create levels at Naughty Dog. And then I go into more into detail about those challenges, so what to solve in this case. So I started my career around 2007. So that's a screenshot from a game called Venetica. So I was working at Deck 13 back in the day. So this game was released 2009. And I was working there for a couple of years, and later on I moved then to Crytek and was working on Crysis 2 and Crysis 3, together with Helder. That was a great pleasure. So, and I was working there for a couple of years, like 2.5 years, and then moved to London and working on Batman Arkham Knight. So it was also around 2 years, and then I got the chance to join the awesome Naughty Dog team in Santa Monica. So I joined them last year. And I've been done ever since. So, just giving you a little bit a workflow summary. So, maybe first of all, this level I was working on is kind of a bit later in the game. So, there are no spoilers here, so don't worry about. But it will be a little bit later seen in the game. So, I just want to give you a little bit an idea of what this level is supposed to be. So, at some point, you have, of course, to discover a sunken city, like in all the Uncharted at some point. And I was working on parts of that. So it's supposed to be a pirate utopia, so a ruined, sunken city, basically. So, and when we were starting working on this level, so there was originally a couple of concepts made. So those concepts are actually from Aaron Limonik. He was doing amazing paintings to discover the style and look for the level, and we did quite a few of them. So those are really early on. So we ended up with a kind of different style, but it's kind of showing you how many iterations you have to run through to nail what you're actually going for. And as we then defined the actual look or what we wanted to create, level design would jump in and create a block mesh. So this block mesh is made by Junki. He was the designer for this level. And this is already showing you really detailed, almost all the buildings and areas in this level. So it's kind of detailed, as you can see. There are windows here, and full buildings are established. So, and this is where I jump in as a modeler and start my work. So, of course, video is never working. So I have here a little workflow. So this is an earlier pass on the level. So you can see there's already most of the buildings built, but it is kind of lack of detail. Missing a lot of vegetation, of course. Some parts are not built yet, as you can see on this floor here. And of course, light maps are broken, and it's not perfectly pretty, but yeah, it's just a work in progress shot. So, and I'm jumping quite wildly around here in this demo. I think I tried to make every jump here. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? So just to show you a little bit, certain passes in this. So at this point, what we were going to do was to create the look and the style of the level a little bit further. So I was doing a screenshot of my state here and was sending that to Concept. So they were going in and doing an overpaint to defining materials, colors, and adding more detail. So, and that's the overpaint, what Aaron came up with, which I think is pretty awesome. And I had this for the longest time as my desktop background while I was working on that. So I constantly was looking at that to get it in my brain, basically. So as you can see, there's a lot of nice foliage, overgrowth added. We got these nice materials on here, different materials to break up the buildings and stuff like that. So, and then just make it. So that's then the final shot, basically. So Anna Cho, she was my texturing artist on this level, so she was doing a lot of awesome work on the materials here. So, and this is really quickly shown how a workflow path would, how it would look like. So you would go in, get the block mesh, start modeling, get feedback, iterate on it, improve it, add more detail, and so on. So, but now I kind of want to talk a little bit more about the challenges, what I encountered while working on those. So making the level look pretty is one aspect environment artist needs to do. Obviously, that's the job. But there's a lot of aspects where you also have to care or we have to take in mind while doing that. So first of all, when I got this, when I got the block mesh handed over, we were sitting together and looking at it and seeing what we could do to improve the visual quality. So Aaron did a really nice rough, quick overpaint just to improve the silhouette. So as you can tell from the original block mesh on the left, the right is way improved. Like you get way more detail. It's way more interesting to look at. So, and then I'm jumping in and starting doing some. So that's a screenshot of the final level. And I want to show a few little tricks I was doing to improve the silhouettes here. So, of course, this whole part of the city is like a poor area, a slums area, almost like favela kind of style. And half of the city was broken down and fall down the cliffs. There was avalanche here, and it was really broken and messed up. But the block mesh itself was made in a very straight fashion, so everything was really angled, like perfectly straight. So I wanted to break that up. But the problem, of course, was all the gameplay mechanics, like all the jumping and edge grabs and cover, all of these, they needed to be still working at this point, like all the time. So I had just only very little room to break the lines. So here I'm showing you a few of the lines, a few of the things I actually did. So actually, most of the buildings, especially here in this center part, which is the biggest part in the game, or biggest part of this level, I kept straight and just tried to move elements which were more visible. Like those two buildings in the background, they're quite prominent, so I tilted those. And I let them run against each other, so I can tilt them just a little bit, so just enough that the gameplay would still work, but enough that it looks interesting. And because they're running against each other, they would increase this effect and would make it more natural looking. The same for that building. It's actually the only one in this area I moved, and because it's kind of prominent in the silhouette here, you get the most out of that, so because it's quite visible. So the blue ones here is actually still pretty straight, so everything else is basically pretty simple. So when you look at this without, and you basically think this is actually pretty organic, even though most of the stuff I kept pretty straight. So, and so this whole level was basically a combat arena. So I'm not sure if everyone is aware of the gameplay of Uncharted, of the Uncharted series, but just a little bit a heads up of that. So there's a lot of cover shooter elements and climbing, like traversal elements in this game. So, and for Uncharted 4, we were really pushing to combine both. So we had combat and traversal, and my level was the perfect example for both. So it was a big area where you could use stealth to climb around. You could, you always had to be able to escape the combat quickly enough, and there was like a lot of enemies. I basically died like, I think I couldn't beat the level till, I don't know, till I played it like 30 times or something. It was pretty rough. I felt a bit ashamed that I can't beat my level though. So yeah, but I nerfed it, so it was good. So, and the problem in the area was that, of course, they added snipers in this building here in the background. So I had basically no chance to add anything in the spaces here, like a tree or another building or something like that. So basically, the limitations were really, really strict on that level. So I couldn't just go in and improve the silhouettes as it was shown on the overpaint, because of all those gameplay rules I had to take care of. So, but to still improve it, I came up with a small little thing. So I added those wooden pillars here, a few of them. So they're actually small enough that they're not hurting the lines of sight here, but they were still adding nice details. So when you would run around in this level, then you get the nice parallax effect of moving elements, which is quite a nice thing. So, and next would be collision, which is also an aspect you have to deal with when you're an environment modeler. So collision is basically, or this geometry shown here is basically the geometry the game engine sees. So this is hidden in game, so the player will not see that, but the game and the gameplay mechanics, they based on that. So because all the gameplay features based off the collision, and with gameplay features I mean all the handholds, cover, everything is basically generated from this collision. So there's a big amount of rules you have to take care of when it's cover generated, when it's not working, when you have to fix it or something. So, and the nature of a Naughty Dog is that we have basically one build which is live all the time. So it means when I'm submitting an updated artwork into Perforce, like into our version system, it is live immediately for everyone in the company. And this means that when I make a new building and I forget the collision is missing, player falls through the hole, I got a call from design, hey, you broke the level, fix that. So, and it happens quite a few times. So, and design is the only department who likes to call you in the office. So they always know that you did something wrong when your phone is ringing, basically. So what I was saying is, so you had to maintain this entire collision throughout the entire production. From the block mesh to the very end, it always had to work, which is the kind of, a lot of time is going into that, because it's very important. Yeah, as Helder said, gameplay first. So, and this is a screenshot out of our level editor. Even though we do almost everything in Maya, so as an environment artist, I'm basically only working in Maya. We do have a level editor where we can basically fine tweak all the gameplay features like edge grabs and cover objects. So like those elements. And design would work in this editor mainly to create a gameplay aspect. So what they can do here as well is they could lock down all the features like the edge grabs and cover and fine tweak them for the game. So it's actually way faster than tweaking collision. But the problem is when they lock it down, then when I'm doing changes, those changes are not updated. So this is only a tool for the very end, for the polishing phase of the game. So at this point, moving back to the actual challenges. So another big aspect was the readability of the level. So this overpaint was made at the same time as the one I showed you in the workflow summary. So, and first of all, it is improving the visual quality quite a bit. So, but second, it also improves the readability a lot, which is very important for the player to actually be able to read the level. So, as you can see on the left side, it is actually quite flat. So the walls have the same color as the floors. There's not much depth to it. Every building has the same kind of shade. So even though we were trying to desaturate this area because this is the poor area, so it shouldn't be fancy, it should look depressive, we went a bit too far at this point. So Aaron did this really good job in adding nice color. So we came up with this solution to tint all the floors, all the accessible floors, really green. And instantly you can definitely tell where you could go, where enemies could be, where you can climb on. And the level instantly is way easier to read and gains a lot of depth to it. So as well, those nice little blue frames here. So it's easier to see, okay, there's a window, I can jump through it. It just looks way more interesting to look at and easier to get what it is. So, and also a big part of readability is to make sure that all the gameplay elements read as gameplay elements. So this is a shot from the entire of the level, or a good chunk of it. And in the next one, I highlighted you every single handheld in this level, which is quite a lot. So, and all of them needed to be working all the time, and they also needed to be visible. So, as I said, it's a combat area. You need to be able to really quickly react to the enemy. So there should be never a situation where you die because you don't know where to go, or you try to jump somewhere where you basically can't jump on, and then someone shoots you in the back, and it's pretty frustrating. So to make sure that those are actually really readable, we had a game-wide rule which said that every handheld needed to have a white edge line, an edge highlight. So it's almost like those here. So you can tell those are climbable. So, but of course, so we had a color which was a basic, like a standard white edge highlight. But the problem was that in this level, the wood was kind of dark, so the white was extremely coming out. So it was almost cartoony looking. So we had to make quite a few iterations to get to the right contrast in this level to make it look good, but also still reads. And it's actually really tricky to find the sweet spot of that, because just having it a little tiny bit too white, it just looks unnatural, and have it too less, it doesn't read anymore. What I was doing here as well to improve the readability, especially from the distance, I was adding to those areas, those patches. So all the handholds have actually a patch underneath them. So when I go back to this, there's a patch here where you can climb, the same on this edge here, and I propagated to this throughout the entire chunk of the level, just to make sure that even from the distance, it's easier to read that you can climb up here. So, and well, this is only one half of it, make those edge grabs climbable or visible, but it also means that everything else, what is a horizontal line, might look like an edge grab. So player might want to jump there. So you had to be very, very careful in horizontal lines. And of course, I had a broken, destroyed village, destroyed city, and I wanted this nice framework houses. And I didn't want to delete all the horizontal wooden lines I added to separate different floors from each other. So yeah, there were basically only two choices: remove the beams or remove those horizontal lines, or cover them with dense vegetation. And in this case, I decided to cover them with vegetation. And first I thought this might look weird following those straight lines, but it ended up actually looking pretty nice. Like the ivy growing on top of the man-made structures enforces the overgrowth look. And this was actually a really nice find in this situation to improve the visual quality, even though it was at the first hand just an limitation I had to deal with. So this was actually a good win out of that. So yeah, and this I wanted to explain a bit about adding detail to the level. So because it's a combat area and there's very tiny houses everywhere, it was really, really difficult to add a good amount of detail in the level, because it was just everywhere I put something, it was blocking, it was basically destroying a gameplay element. So this corner here, at some point in production, I was going in and adding, I wanted to add furniture. So I wanted to add a wardrobe in the level, just to add it more, to give it more interesting look. You know, what people would have done in these buildings, to make it more interesting. So I found this spot here and added a nice wardrobe in the corner. I looked all the sides, I checked everything. Okay, here you go, it works here, cover is working, edge grab is not blocked. Okay, really cool. I can submit that. Submit it. 10 minutes later, my designer comes to my desk and says, "Hey, Martin, can you remove this wardrobe? It's just blocking my cover here." And it's like, okay. So, yeah, I think it was more like, yes, of course. So, so in this case, what I was doing, I actually added an even bigger wardrobe. But what I did different is, in this case, I moved it exactly to the line, to the wall. So, so instead of making the wall or the cover side smaller, it's actually basically like pushing the wall inside. Like, it's almost like a bigger wall here. And instead, having just a really thick stone wall, it's just an extra layer of detail in front of it. So gameplay is working perfectly fine, and I got my details I wanted. So, and we're now talking about adding vegetation to cover edge grabs, which are no edge grabs. It also works the other way around. I should not add vegetation on edge grabs who should work as edge grabs. And because I had a lot of these, basically everything, it was kind of tricky to make it look really overgrown, to make it look really natural and organic. So wherever I had a chance, I was trying to add as much vegetation and foliage as I could. So I marked a few spots in here. So this pillar here, there's no purpose to it, there's no gameplay to it. So this is a little patch, a little island of detail in the level. The same for this one here on the end. So there is no gameplay need. So I just added a nice nice level of detail to it. And as you can see here, there's an edge grab on this side which need to be working, but I just put some foliage underneath, so it still reads as a clear line. It's easy to read. It still works as an edge grab. But I got my overgrown detail to it. This area here, we came in relatively late. So at some point, we decided to open up one area of the level to add an additional path for the player to outflank the enemies. And this whole space here, you can see here, was more or less a corridor, basically. It's just a broken wall or something like that. So I took this chance to increase the space. So I could have basically a full room I can use to just fill up with nice detail and tell a little story. So there could be a little workshop in here. So it's a chimney, there's a little saw on the wall here. We even put a little collectible on the side, which is kind of cool. So I really tried to find areas where I can add detail because other areas were simply not possible to do the same kind of stuff. So the same for this area. This is basically looking the other direction from the shot before. And the wall you see in the background here, I just pushed a few meters more on the back, so I'm able to add a nice collection of props in front of it. So you never need to go there, but it's just giving you another level of detail to the level, which is quite nice. So it tells you a bit more story in the entire level. So you can actually tell, okay, some people lived here. So that's quite important. Yeah, same here underneath the stairs. It was just no gameplay purpose. So here I added some detail. When you look at the wall here on the back, there was actually no way to add anything. You need to be taking cover here, 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 here. You need to jump over here. You need to take cover here. You need to take cover here, like everywhere. So there was no chance. But here was a nice pocket to fill it up. And another aspect, what is nice about it, you don't end up cluttering everything with the same amount of detail. So you have like little patches, like little pockets of details, and then you have areas where your eye can rest, where it's a little cleaner, where you can read the gameplay aspects, where you can see where you can jump and climb. So that's a nice synergy between those two elements. In this area here, in the original block mesh, this entire floor was basically just a wall. So I also took this chance and opened this one up. So there's an extra basement room. You never access it. It's blocked by wooden beams. But there is a nice level behind it. So there's a lot of detail I added just to show you more depth to it. And because on top of here, there was also no chance. Also cover objects, high stealth grass, so there was no chance. So I just cheated it in here in the lower level just to get the same detail in the level. So that's also a nice example. So for the longest time, this entire corner here was a big wooden box, pretty boring. And at some point, I decided I wanted to really improve it. So I went in and made a really nice pile of crates. But because it had to be really straight and really perfect, because of all the gameplay restrictions, we needed this line and this line here. So it looked like too perfect, a perfectly stacked pile of crates. Just wouldn't fit in a broken, abandoned city. So I just came back and decided to add this little cart in here. So I filled it up with some details, so it's actually solid. And then I added those planks on top, so when you follow those lines down, it will still form a perfect cube, but it totally doesn't read as it on the first glance anymore. So just a little trick I needed to get my detail I wanted into the level. So and now it's a bit about talking about optimization. So that's the last block. The problem of that level was that when you enter it, you can already see the exit. So the exit is somewhere here. So basically what that means is that for the most of the time, there's a lot of stuff rendered. So this means that the game could look pretty slow at some point. And because it's a combat area, so you have all those enemies walking around, then they will shoot at you, they will throw grenades, there will be a lot of particle effects, so this is all not working in your benefit. So, and on top of that, because it's a combat area, that's an area where you want it really, really smooth. You really don't want to frustrate a player with like a not 30 frames, solid 30 frames rate. So, to achieve that, we had to go in and do a good amount of optimization here. So we have a visibility system which is hiding elements which are not visible. So elements which are hidden between walls, for example, or simply not on the screen. So, but the system is working per object, not per triangle. So that means when one pixel is visible of a crate, the whole crate will be still entirely rendered. So, and because the level is so open, like all the windows, all the open alleyways, and it's broken, so we have a lot of gaps between wooden beams and stuff. So the system is not working in the best way it could, because it's just a lot of stuff is still visible. So to improve that, in certain areas, I just put solid planes in the level. Just to plug up some gaps. So it would sacrifice a little bit of visual quality because you couldn't see through anymore, but it's quite a big improvement for the quality, for the performance. And as well, what we did as well was, so a lot of the objects have level of detail, so they have they're basically simpler details when they're in distance. So we adjusted the distance how they're rendered. So in this level, the LOD steps would show up a little bit earlier than in other parts of the game. So it would increase a little bit popping in the picture, but it would increase the frame rate quite a lot. So that was a sacrifice worth doing to achieve the visuals. So, and as well, most of the small foliage you can see here, like all the little yellow plants here or those, I actually had to disable the real-time shadow casting, so they're not casting real-time shadows anymore. But in terms of performance, it still works pretty well. And because we use light maps, they will still have a little bit of a grounding in the level. So it was a sacrifice worth doing. So now I want to have a little bit of conclusion of that. So first of all, of course, this game production is a lot of teamwork. So I just wrote down a few of the departments I was working with while I was working on my level. So of course there's design, there's VFX, lighting of course, it's a big aspect to the game. So at Nordic we have a split between modeling and texturing, so we also had to take that in count and coordinate with those guys, and as well concept and programming. So, and yeah, as you see, when you're an artist, you usually really want to make it just pretty, but there are some gameplay aspects which are really forcing you to step back and actually sacrifice some of your art to get the gameplay in there. So that's always important, and as well the performance. So when the performance is not there, you have to sacrifice quality for it. So, and what I also want to say is that when you have limitations, it's always wise to really use them as a strength. So for example, the example with this wooden bar where I put vegetation on top, this was a nice kind of outcome of it. So it's actually adding nice detail to it, and it is a kind of limitation. So yeah, and so really try not to work against those limitations and really try to work with them. So for example, if your tag couldn't really afford rendering a jungle, then not really try to make a jungle, just try to do something what your tag toolset, your team can really achieve. Yeah, so, and that's about it. Thanks.
That was awesome, Martin. Thank you.
Thanks.
I just was wondering, how many of you are playing Uncharted 4 right now? Just curious. There we go.
Quite a few.
I'm sure there'll be many more.
Those. Good, I heard.
We've heard it's good. We have a couple minutes just to take some Martin-specific questions. Then we'll bring Joy and Hilda back up, and we'll do like a kind of group session. So, okay, first question. If you are leaving early, can you just be quiet with the back door because it gets a little bit noisy? Who was it that had their hand up?
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
You talked a little bit about like stuff you turned off to optimize it to make it work better. During the making of it, what were some of the assets that you found to be like some of the assets that hurt performance more than other assets?
Usually vegetation is pretty complicated to do because there's a lot of alpha to it. You need a lot of triangles to make realistic looking foliage. So that was basically the biggest impact. So because it's an overgrown, abandoned city, so everything kind of needed a layer of vegetation. So it was basically the biggest impact in performance to add those details in. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Next question. Sorry. Got distracted. Was there one here? Another question?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm completely blind.
Hi. You mentioned the vegetation all throughout the game. Because most of those are like real identifiable foliage, right? And was that native to the specific regions that are explored in the game, or was it more just because they look nice in that setting? Or?
So we had actually a library where we had to set of foliage for each different area. So when you had like Madagascar, for example, a level which is early on, there was an entire set for this level. Of course, the more generic plants we're using throughout the entire game, but especially for this entire island pirate colonies theme, we used basically the pirate colony island foliage set just to keep it consistent. And as well, you don't want to use a little piece of foliage from this set and then a little bit of this, because you usually share the same textures between those sets. So you don't make every leaf unique, or have every tree doesn't have a unique leaf set. So you want to share those between them. Yeah, sure.
And then we also have a question. We have actually a lot of questions coming in on Twitter. So Lucas has asked, what's the difference between modeling destructive and non-destructive surfaces?
So you mean non-destructive? You mean that like stuff which could break in game, or in general like intact geometry, like a not broken city? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
So I think so. There's a lot of stuff which could break, especially a bit later in the game. This would be usually handled by a different department. So you say prop department, they would deal with all the animated stuff. So I'm as an environment artist, I would create, for example, a building, and I would provide them pieces. They would then break up and make it work, that they get destroyed. Yeah, and that they blow off when a big truck drives through them, for example, which actually happens in the game. Yeah.
Cool. Spoilers.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to take one more, and then we'll do the group session.
So in that one level in particular, you were talking about making detail models in inaccessible places. So how much of that was pre-made modular sets, and how much did you actually take upon modeling yourself?
So we do have a good selection of props, like furniture, crates, barrels, the foliage. But what you can see on this on the screen here, so when you think about all the foliage here, the wooden beams would be also a set, but most of the stuff would be modeled by myself. So we were doing some like little broken brick textures or brick modules. I think this one was done by Chad. So we did a few different sets, but a lot of the stuff would be done in-house. So, and we would probably share. So I came a little bit later to the production, so there was a lot of assets available. So I was basically more building the bigger elements, like all the floor pieces here or the walls. So there was a lot of small assets like I could use already available.
Okay, awesome.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna add another 2 chairs to the stage now, and we'll bring Hilda and Joy back up, and then we'll open up a few more questions, and we have some more coming in online too. But I think we should have another round of applause for Martin.
Thanks.
I also need to give a huge thanks to Naughty Dog for letting us show so much of that. I know you've done like a huge art dump. I don't know if anyone's been on ArtStation recently, but all the artists launched all of their work on the same day, kind of took over ArtStation. It was amazing. So yeah, go check that out. Okay, so thanks everyone for coming back up.
Thank you.
Any more questions in the stage before we go back to Twitter? Okay.
Is that yours? Is that yours?
That's fine.
Hey guys, thank you for everything, for expressing what your processes and everything. I want to ask a question that is a bit broad, but intentionally I don't want to restrict your answers because. So, how do you balance the environment? How do you approach the word balance in the environment?
Balance in terms of what? Gameplay, art?
No, art. Just the visual, the way it looks, the way it feels. Again, I don't want to specify like colors or layout or anything. I just want to know, how do you guys see it? What's your angle?
I'll just go first.
Yeah.
Usually, I noticed that as you build environments, it's very easy for stuff to look noisy and it's very easy to work on something and then you look at it and it's overdone and colors are all over the place, details are all over the place. It's very easy for that to happen. Lighting is contrasty, so usually taking a step back and making sure you don't over detail is always a really good advice. And whenever you do want to detail, like Martin said, just pocket it in a corner and leave the gameplay areas a little bit more clean. That's usually a really good thing to do.
One thing I like to add for that is it helps a lot to put yourself in the player's position. Like, if I was playing this game, would I be frustrated that there's a billion leaves and I can't see what direction I'm going?
Right.
Like, where am I going to want to see? Where are enemies going to be hitting me? Am I going to be killed immediately because this area is all gray and I can't find which way to go? Like, a lot of what Martin was saying about, like, detail and lack of detail and color for, like, surfaces of where you're going, that's all very, very important. So if you feel like you're an artist and you just want, I want to art can I cuss on here? Can I art the shit out of this? Can I fuck out of this? Like, I want to throw everything I have at this and make it look awesome. That doesn't benefit the game. Your game won't sell, and then your studio will close.
I hope not. Yeah, I think what also usually helps is that you kind of step back from your picture. So what I usually like to do is to just make a screenshot and then really scale it down or just step back so you see the big details and you're not getting lost in all the small ones. And then you can tell if this is looking good on the thumbnail already, then you did a good job. When you can't tell what it is, I don't know, it's weird, noisy, then it kind of probably needs another pass on composition. Yeah. But also always need to take care of all the gameplay needs and stuff, which is really important. And because as a player you can walk around and look around wherever you want, it's really hard to find those areas. So I think it's really about this finding a nice balance, as you said, in terms of detail and readability. So it should be, on the first glance, you should be able to tell, okay, where to go, what I can do, what can I do here. Yep. Yeah. Yep. And I think you can use whatever, like colors, shapes, whatever works and looks best in this case. Sweet.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, and then one from Twitter. So general question for you guys. Has a deadline, it's from Anissa, by the way, has a deadline ever forced you to change your workflow and even sacrifice the aesthetics or even existence of props and environments?
Yeah.
Every day?
Yeah. It's all compromises, or else games would never get finished.
Yeah. That's why you should always invest on reusability and try to not spend too much time on something, because that clock is ticking, as always, and you need to fight to find a balance of time and quality and whatever that you are satisfied with as an artist.
Yeah. I mean, you really can improve your visuals just all the time. You just have to stop at some point. Yep. So it's really important to find what is the most important part in this level, instead of going into detail and tweak like little, details on the leaf on the left corner on this little corridor. You should go in and try, okay, the main part of this is this big well in the middle of the level, for example. Right, exactly. And then you should spend time on that and try to weight your time in terms of what's important and what's less important.
And focus as well. Like I guess like whenever like the main path areas of that the player is going to see, that's probably what you want to put your focus on. You know, whatever it's on the backdrop, like that can be made really fast and really in a very low poly fashion, and focus more on what's on the foreground.
Thank you. Any more in? Okay. Oh, lots now.
Hi, my name is Joaquin, and thanks for sharing the technique and your art. So, by the way, I'm working my English, so sorry for that. My question is about the texture process. Do you guys usually do procedural textures, or do your own texture, for example? This general question.
Yeah, so at Nordic we have a really substance-heavy workflow. So a lot of the stuff would be handmade or even procedural generated, as if we can. So basically, we try to not use too much photo textures. Basically, so everything got touched by an artist, especially made or painted by an artist, just to get this kind of Naughty Dog or Uncharted style to it.
I guess it's whatever works for you, for your project too, right? I mean, if procedural texturing really speeds up the production of your project, I mean, sure, invest in it. It's always a good thing. Substance is a really good app. Everyone's using it these days.
Yeah, everyone's using it.
It's awesome.
We do a combination of procedural and one-offs and photos and photo scanning. We use a lot of photo scanning especially for a lot of environment props. So those are all.
I don't know if you can answer this question, but what kind of texture detail for a process? I mean, for example, 2K, 4K?
I would say it really depends on what you're going for. So I think more important than the pure resolution is the consistency. So you don't have a really nice high-res brick wall and then a super low-res plaster on top of it or something like that. So I really want to have it consistent and throughout the game, so you don't want to stretch it too much. And I think now that we are like in the next generation of it, like PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, so it means that we have more resolution available. And so, yeah, but it's really hard to tell what exact resolution should go for, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't have anything else to add? That's good.
Thanks. And then I'm just going to go to someone new.
Hi, thank you for coming again. But I wanted to know how you guys got your start in the industry. Like, what was your first job? Like, how did you get discovered, or that sort of thing?
I was in my 8th term at Gnomon, and my friend just recently got a job at Superbot Studios. He graduated 2 terms before me, and it was like, we're hiring, do this test. And I did the test. I used one of my projects for my portfolio class. I'm like, I'm just going to take this 2 weeks and do this test instead, and that will be my assignment. I turned it in, I got the job, and I never finished school.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same, man. Like networking, it's a huge one. It's the quality of your work and networking are 2 really huge. It's actually a surprisingly small industry, and everyone knows each other. So just network a lot. There's Polycount, ArtStation, Mapcore. Yay, Mapcore plug. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, when I was studying back in Germany, I was just sending a mail to the only little game studio available in the city I was studying, and then they just asked me to, you could just start here as an intern. So I was working there basically three evenings in a week. I went there after my school basically and just worked there and was like super happy. I'm working on a real game now. That's pretty cool. And especially just opened some doors because I was working on a real game. I had a little bit more reference. I learned a bit more. So I got basically the internship at this studio at Deck 13. I just showed you on my presentation. So and that's where I went in, where I basically worked my way up in the hierarchy. Yeah.
Just, I guess, like I can add to just be visible. Like it's a really, really big one. And like back in my day when I started, everyone was making mods for Quake and Counter-Strike, etc. And nowadays that kind of shifted a bit. Like everyone's just doing indie games, and I really recommend if you want to start, just like join an indie team. Like join like a little team. It's kind of hard to do things on your own. So if it's like a team that's like you have like an animator, designer, and programmer, just focus and focus on doing something feasible, something small that you can ship.
All right, thank you.
Were there any more around here? Just here. Let me try and get to you.
Hi. So first of all, thank you for sharing your great ideas and your experience to us. So my question is, you mentioned before you did one material for the environment. You call the master material. So I would want to create my own master material as well in Unreal Engine 4. So how can I get started?
How can you?
How can I get started to create my own master material?
Oh, if you wanna learn how to create your master material? Yes. Oh, there's like Epic has a lot of tutorials on the YouTube page, and there's Eat3D. There's like a bunch of like little websites that have tutorials for that, or you can literally just download my scene and analyze. Just open the material and see how we connected the nodes. And if you want to replicate that in Unreal Engine, the language is the same. You can just look at that and just mess around with the nodes, and there's a lot of tutorials on YouTube as well that are free that cover that.
So what if I use Unreal 4? Mm-hmm. Just pretty much same things with UDK?
Yes. I mean, yes. Other than a couple nodes, everything
because I saw the nodes is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Such as just like roughness, metallic.
Yeah, I mean, just math, right? Like all you think that is just connecting values, and maybe the node changed, maybe they renamed the node, but if you look at the syntax and if you replicate it in another engine, it's always going to work.
Mm-hmm. It's all very logical. Like even like Maya's Hypershade. If you guys know that, you're able to use Unreal Engine. Even like Frostbite is node based. Everything's node based nowadays. So if you just read this plugs into this. Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So I still have one question.
Sure, shout, man.
Yeah. Well, I was working on my personal environment for my portfolio, and I prepared for a long time actually. I just wondering if which tool did you guys recommend, such as the Quick Suite and the Substance Designer or Painter?
Yeah, I do think that Substance is quite the future of game design or texturing, basically. So a lot of studios start using it. They're improving it every day, basically, or quite a lot. So I think this is definitely worth going into and have a look how this works. And I think there's a bunch of great tutorials. Like my colleague Christoph Dass is doing a lot of awesome tutorials about those tools, for example. So it's definitely worth.
So although if you're starting, stick with the basics, like it's very easy to have like Substance and Quixel and, just a bunch of like apps that do complex stuff that you don't even understand yet. Just, if you're starting out, stick with Photoshop and Maya, and like, you'll feel it when you need something to help out. So say you're modeling a jacket, like, man, I'm taking 2 weeks to model this. What can I do to make this fast? And Joy just showed you today like a little app that you can do it in seconds. You don't need to know the app. You just need to know of it. So you need to be aware of what's out there, but you don't necessarily need to know everything, especially if you're starting out. Just focus on making art, and you'll know when you need another tool. That's my opinion.
Art and art is your portfolio, like no matter what fancy programs you use, it all comes down to your personal skill level and your eye for like knowing that this is good and this is not good. Like I can make a billion props in Quixel and just not knowing what I'm applying and like throw a bunch of shit and make things look cool, but they're not going to look right because I haven't spent the time and took the eye and like, why is the smoothness value like this? Oh, it's because it's smoother than this object. Why is that? Oh, that's because this one's metal. Like you need to know the concepts behind it rather than just knowing the programs, which I think like just doing Maya Photoshop should be fine.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm getting trapped. Did you have a question right here as well? Oh, where was this one? Okay, just a second.
Thank you. On the subject of programs, it seems new software is coming out nearly every year that we can use to make games more efficiently and better. So my question is, how do you manage which programs you use as an artist and as a studio so your workflow doesn't get too bloated using all these new programs or time absorbed learning them?
I try everything once. And it goes by case basic. Like, oh, this is cool new. Like, have you guys seen that Facebook video? Oh, why does that sound? Have you guys seen that Facebook video where the guy's shining the light and taking pictures of like crumbled paper? Yeah, it got shared like a billion times.
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm so excited to learn that, but I don't need it at all, and I can prioritize never having that. It's completely case by case.
Exactly.
I mean, I can. Like once you're in the trenches and you're making games and putting out props and working with different workflows, you'll come to like understand, okay, this will save me time. Okay, this I'm just pressing pretty buttons.
Exactly.
Like,
and it's a per project basis as
Yes.
well. Whatever your project needs, focus on that. And if you see there's a tool out there that will really help your project, pitch it into your colleagues. Hey, what do you guys think about using this? And then whatever works, just stick with them, ship your project, and then after that, look at whatever is out there to help you maybe.
Yeah, I do see the same. If there's a tool out there which just improves or makes something so much faster, as what you, for example, World Machine is a great tool to create like really nice landscapes. Of course, you don't need to know about the tool when you never do a landscape, but if you do, it's the best or a really strong tool to do something like that. So it's definitely worth to know what's around, what is available, and maybe even better to just look at it once.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
in terms of an in-studio workflow, I think it really depends how easy you can implement it. Or, for example, when we use Maya, we have, of course, a lot of custom scripts. Everyone has its own shortcut setups. So when you just make just update to a new version, this could cause a lot of problems, even though there's maybe a better modeling tool, which could be really nice to use, but maybe you have to rewrite half of your custom scripts. Then it's maybe not worth it updating yet.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's complicated not to become a dinosaur in there.
Okay, so when you all first started doing modeling and you got it at your first video game company and your skills weren't, super refined, but you did have the skills to get the job, how did you grow those skills more? Were you able to ask the team, or was that considered wasting time, learning new tricks and such?
No, it was actually, so when I started working at Deck 13, for example, at 2007, basically my skills were basically skyrocketing because I had people who knew Maya, who knew art, and they were constantly telling me what to improve, and people I could talk to, hey, I did that, could you have a look over that? And they would say, well, that's good, but when you do that, it's actually way cooler. Exactly. So I think when you work with professionals, they're first of all like super happy helping you out, and especially when you're hired like as a junior or as an intern, that's part of the process why they hire you. They don't expect, When you're senior, you're the person who is expected to train like the trainees in the team. Yeah,
exactly. And whenever you want to learn new workflows, that's personal projects. It's my biggest advice. If you're passionate for this, just do like a scene a year. I don't know, and do like try and like a new workflow on that. Try something crazy that you cannot do at work. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, just never be afraid to ask questions. Like
Yeah.
when I got my first job, when I was going to Gnomon, we only had the visual effects courses, so I didn't know very much at all about making game assets. So everything I made for the first month was like way too high poly, and my maps were huge. Like I put it in a 4K, and that back then we were trying to get it on a PS3, and it's like that doesn't work at all. So it took a lot of like, is this right? Is this right? It's never a bad thing to ask, is this right? And especially if you've given a shot or two first, and just I want your eyes on this. I trust your opinion. Coworkers will like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I started working at Naughty Dog, I was basically just asking my neighbor like every 5 minutes of the workflow. And at the beginning, of course, you need to ask those questions because sitting there at your desk and wait until someone comes to you to explain is basically a waste of your time. So you just want to know how it works, and when you're good enough, then you go, and then you...
Exactly.
Basically the frequency where you go, well, hey, could you help me? Hey, could you help me? It's basically getting lower and lower and lower until they come to you. Hopefully at some point,
Absolutely.
maybe.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Awesome jacket, by the way.
So Christopher on Twitter has asked, when you're working on a level and it's taking a long time, what steps do you take to avoid becoming tired or even bored of the scene?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it really depends. If it's a personal project, I probably abandon it for half a year. So, which happens. But when it's work related, then usually you have enough to just step on something else. When you're stuck in something, just don't waste your time. Just go somewhere else, do something else, get a fresh eye, and then come back. Yeah. Just even sleeping a night over it and not looking at it is already helping a lot in this case.
To add to that, just consume media, like movies, anime, games out there, and those are all gonna inspire you to finalize your project. But I mentioned on my presentation, if you're right in the middle of it and you think you're not gonna go anywhere, do a paint over, or ask someone else to do a paint over for you. You'd be surprised if you create a thread on Polycount, for instance, ask for help. People will definitely help you. And be like, man, how come I never thought about that? And that thought in you will give you the needed juices to move forward.
For me as an asset artist, it's pretty easy. I just I can do that too. And then all of a sudden I'm working on 5 different things, but then I never get bored.
Yeah, that works too.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Actually, Joy, someone else has asked on Twitter, do you have any tips for them if they want to become a prop artist? What kind of tips do you have for their portfolio?
Really, really, really clean models and clean UVs are very important. Knowing where to put polys and where that you can hold back is very important. Material definition, especially now that everything's PBR lately. So learning what smoothness is and what the right spec value is and metalness or all that stuff. Those are, I think, the most important things. Clean models, correct material definition. And lots of versatile props would be great too.
Yeah.
Cool. And then were there any more questions in the stage before we wrap up? Okay, we'll take one more.
One more. Nice.
Can you raise your hand again? I can't remember who. So.
I have a question about poly count for an environment as far as individual pieces go, and how does the studio go about letting you guys know the poly count for pieces for an environment?
I guess I'll go first. It's usually way lower than what you expect when you join the industry. What do you mean I'm supposed to model this with 1,000 triangles?
Yeah.
That's usually that's something that as you slowly start to hone your craft. Triangles, even nowadays, they're still golden. You can't just waste triangles in usually I have a golden rule is that triangles need to support your silhouette, and that's it really. If you just have triangles just jumbled in the middle of the asset, then just get rid of them, and you'll see it's just that the asset looks the same and performs better too.
What is a fly? What was I going to say? The fly distracted me.
I know.
It's something you definitely learn over time. Like, for me, every single game I've worked on was completely different because we worked on different engines, and some engines handle polys better, and some engines handle textures better, and some models can't, or some engines can't show shadows at all. I can't even talk right now. So you need to like see what's already there. Hopefully there's stuff already there, and try to at least follow that thread. If you are saying like, oh, they want me to make this thing that hasn't been done before, aim higher with a clean geo that's easy to take down.
Right.
Because it's really hard. It's like, oh, this is super fast. We need a lot more polys. It's like, now I have to remake a bunch of it. So aim high. You can always reduce.
Yeah, I would say it's really about when you have a good feeling. At some point you really get where can I span those triangles and where shouldn't I? So, and as well, like a little bit of consistency is also nice. So if I have this really, really nicely detailed cups on the table, but the room around has to be really low poly because the cups eat away all the detail, then you might want to rethink where you want the detail actually. So yeah, as Helder said, the silhouette matters, and hero assets, I would say, when you have an asset where the player should go, or which is like the center of the level, then it's worth to spend a bit more here. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's have another huge round of applause. So yeah, thank you so much, Joy, Hilda, Martin. It's been an honor having you here tonight. And thank you to EA DICE, Blizzard, and especially Naughty Dog for all the stuff we've been allowed to see. And thank you everyone for joining us too. You've been a great audience. Those are cool questions. Please come back again. We like it when you talk to us and get involved. So we do have lots more events coming up. We have one next Thursday with Alex Alvarez. It's going to be an awesome event looking at his workflow for creating detailed and hyper-realistic environments. So you should come to that one. That one will be live streaming too. You can always check to see what events we have coming up by just going to our website, gnomon.edu/events. And if you follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or sign up to the newsletter as well, and we'll just keep you in the loop. Those of you watching on live stream, if you hit the follow button, you'll get notified when we announce another event. So that's super helpful. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. If anyone is new to Gnomon today, if you haven't been here before and kind of curious, want to look around a bit more, we do have a couple of staff who can give you a tour tonight, or we can arrange for you to come back another time and have a look around. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming.